Something is rotten in the state of Denmark. And Hamlet is taking out the trash.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. I'm your host, Diego Crespo, here at the failed Blockbusters Season 3 premiere.
You're really calling your shot that you'll actually get this episode out on a Monday.
It will be a Monday. It will be a Monday, and that's my co-host, Matt Garingo.
Yes, that is I.
Matt, how the hell are you?
I am great. The world is a beautiful, magical place.
The world is a beautiful, magical place. Movies are beautiful, magical. Movies are dreams that you never forget.
The most important thing to have in this horrible, dark world is dreams. And movies are like dreams. And if you make movies, that makes you the most important person in the world. Isn't it weird that directors keep making that movie?
Yeah. They're like, I mean, it's basically directors being like, please suck my dick. Please suck my dick and pay me $12 for it at a matinee.
Yeah.
And I'll gladly do that sometimes, frankly. So, this is a weird opening. Failed Blockbuster Season 3. We asked you people to vote for between 16 choices of movies. And people came to play. I was like, I'm not going to lie. When Matt, my co-host, came up with the idea, like, let's have them vote, because why not? We had
too many choices was really what it came down to.
There was a fuck ton of choices. Not even every choice we talked about made it onto the list, and then we made that list even smaller. But a really big fear of mine, I'm not going to lie, was like, well, are people going to like actually show up to vote for this? Like, I don't know. And no, people came up to vote. And so we had battles like between Fantastic Mr. Fox versus The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Not really a battle, ultimately.
No, that one was more like a slaughter.
Yeah, you fucking weaklings. How do you not vote for Rocky and Bullwinkle? What's wrong with y'all?
There's Alita Battle Angel versus Mars Attacks. I thought Mars Attacks was going to have more of a fighting chance.
I did too, but Alita has a very passionate fan base out there.
Yes.
So...
They made themselves known, and I will
yes, they did.
But I will say, I received a very kind DM from one of the spearheaders of the Alita fan base, and they were like, just to clear things up, you're saying failed Blockbuster as in failed critically or financially or whatever, right? Because, we all love Alita. And I was like, no, we love Alita too, don't worry.
Sounds like a bunch of dudes showed up at your house like holding bricks and baseball bats and were like, now we're not saying we're going to break your legs, but yes. You do like Alita Battle Angel, correct?
Yeah, it was a little bit like that, and I was like, no. I will break someone else's legs for not liking that movie too.
Yeah.
So there was
that'll be a fun one. I am looking forward to talking about that movie.
Yeah.
Especially since I can drop some of my OG Alita fan cred before the movies even existed.
I would actually like to hear that, because it's the rare one where we're talking about a failed blockbuster that still is getting a sequel, probably.
Maybe. We'll talk about that when that episode comes out.
Yeah, which also means that maybe we could do Pacific Rim in the future.
Yeah.
Because we don't need to talk about the sequel, but I'd love to talk about that first one.
Yeah. My rule, here's something, spoilers for the whole list, but I was going to, my thing was going, because I know Diego really wants to talk about Pacific Rim. And I was going to be, I pitched Mimic as one of the failed blockbusters to talk about. And I was going to be like, I'm not letting another Del Toro movie on here until we talk about Mimic. And I just assumed Mimic would lose, and it ended up winning, but I think that's because it went up against Cleopatra.
Which I thought was going to be like a way like more successful of a choice against like Mimic. Because of the state of the industry collapsing, right? Yeah.
I think people just don't really remember Cleopatra. Like, it's only like a film nerd thing to know that Cleopatra, like, almost, like, they had to close 20th Century Fox for like a week and not pay anyone because of the amount of money they spent on Cleopatra.
Yeah, I guess our brains are just too fucking, like, hyper-fixated on all this bullshit, and other people are like, I have, like, stuff to do today.
Yeah, other people have actual for real jobs. we just complain about movies.
Yeah. I'm definitely never stepping into an office or any of that nonsense.
All right, after Alita, which beat Mars Attacks, I guess people just don't give a shit about Mars Attacks anymore, but I will give a spirited defense of Mars Attacks one of these days.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, some
17
people know of it recently because of Red Letter Media.
Yeah, but they also didn't like it.
I'll just say, every time we come up with like a really interesting choice, someone else fucking covers it somewhere else, and it's just proof that we were right and we should have just done it sooner.
Yeah.
That's all.
But I doubt the same will happen for 1776, which lost to the Chronicles of Riddick big time.
Yeah.
1776, and an insane little movie.
Which I've never even heard of.
It's a musical about the founding of America. It's the OG Hamilton, except with John Adams as the main character.
Mm.
And it was a Broadway musical. It was a Broadway hit, and then they tried to make it into a movie, and it bombed huge. And you'll see it, and you've never seen a movie like it, probably for a good reason.
Okay.
But it's a fascinating little object. This one I feel bad for, because we should have thought about who the Squeeze went up against better. But
Yeah.
Hugo destroyed the Squeeze.
Oh yeah, I'll also say this is how fucking well planned we had this. I'll say that I used letterbox rankings to assort the highest to lowest.
So let me ask real quick: was it what they're rating? What their star, the average star rating on Letterboxd? Was that what you did?
Yes, the average star rating. So
See, that was the mistake.
You think so?
You should have picked like equivalent view numbers on Letterboxd.
Probably right.
So like which ones are close to being as watched as the other.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been a better spread.
Maybe next time I'll just do it alphabetically. Fuck it.
We'll figure it out. Maybe next time we won't even do a bracket. Maybe next time we'll just do whatever we pick.
I'm gonna predict right now we're gonna do a bracket again because it was kind of fun to see people get into the voting.
Yeah.
And I wanna like actually make some unhinged like battles happen. This was a little too easy, I think.
Yeah. But I gotta say, one problem I have is that I think the voters, and you, frankly, Diego, when you kept pitching more failed blockbusters to me, you kept pitching good movies. And I'm like, no, we gotta talk about crap. We gotta find movies that are bad and bizarre and worth talking about. And I was a little worried that our listeners were deferring a little too much to quality films.
And that is a point you brought up even before the bracket was released to the public. And
Yes.
I will say, I think you were right. Next time, I'm going to have to do some soul searching into some real garbage. And I'm very excited to do so.
We had
I saw one movie for the first time this year. And my immediate thought was, oh, that would be a good choice for next year. But that's another time. I'll tell you later.
You know what? We could probably do an entire season of failed blockbusters based on the year 2023.
The Flash retrospective.
Yeah, like everything's bombing. Like
Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny review part 2.
Yeah, even the Mission Impossible's like doing worse than they thought. Like,
Yeah, and that one's fucking stupid. I don't know whose decision it was to release that a week before Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Some fucking guy at Paramount like a year ago was like, "We're gonna fucking kill Barbie." Like,
I know.
No fucking idea.
They're riding the high
coming.
of Top Gun. Jerry Bruckheimer's in their corner, like lining up a line of coke for them, and they're like, "I'm gonna fucking save cinema with Tom Cruise."
Yeah.
And then now they're like, "Oh no, I don't know if we can afford reshoots on Mission Impossible 8." I don't know if that's a joke. That's a joke. All that was a joke. But
Hey.
stuff to think about. I don't know. People seem to like it still. I haven't seen it yet.
Yes. Heaven's Gate and Warcraft came pretty close.
I know. I was like,
Which was a little shocking.
And then, of course, today's episode, Last Action Hero versus Cure for Wellness. Cure for
Thank
Wellness
God
almost had
today's
it.
movie won.
Well, we'll get back to it in 1 second, but I really would have liked to talk about Cure for Wellness. It's not going to happen. That's okay. Matinee versus Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within.
The biggest shocker, maybe.
I know. I'm glad it kind of turned out this way, but I do really want to talk about a Joe Dante movie.
Yeah, we'll figure it out eventually. We haven't done Small Soldiers, have we?
Nope.
'Cause that's another really good one to do.
That was my first Joe Dante movie, I think.
Oh my god, that's a weird one to start with.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw Gremlins after.
That's the famous one where it was they were planning on releasing it as a PG movie, and then they couldn't get it down, and it was still rated PG-13, I think, by the time it came out.
Mm-hmm.
So like it kind of got fucked by that. But well, that's a movie we'll talk. I am just shocked that people even remember Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within exists.
If you put an anime movie in your movie bracket, it's gonna do well.
But is that anime?
It kind of is. I don't know.
Like it's based on a video game, but it's like weird computer generated movie. Like
I think it qualifies as anime, but I'm not an anime like scholar, so maybe I'm just talking out of my ass here.
Yeah.
Which we do all the time, but I just feel like I should reiterate that. And then Cleopatra versus Mimic. Mimic swept. Cleopatra not looking good. I would have liked to talk about Cleopatra.
Yeah. Cleopatra would have been just fascinating just because of the whole legacy of it. But you know what? Maybe we'll be able to do 2 Cleopatras by the time of the next failed blockbusters.
Oh. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great?
That would be interesting. Cleopatra versus Cleopatra versus Cleopatra. Because there's actually 3 Cleopatra movies.
Oh, really? What's the other one?
The other one's like from the 1930s, I think. Let me check.
I thought you meant there was like 2 Cleopatras coming out.
Oh, no. There's... Okay, well, there's actually like 24 Cleopatra movies, but let's just stick to the big ones. Mm-hmm. There's
the ones that are
Elizabeth
famous
Taylor
bombs.
One. The Elizabeth Taylor one, yeah. And then 1934 by Cecil B. DeMille, which was not a bomb by their standards, I don't think. Almost $2 million on a budget of $842,908. That's very specific, but whatever.
Anyway.
Oh yeah, let's talk about The Last Action Hero.
The Last Action Hero.
Directed by John McTiernan, a 1993 American fantasy comedy action film.
One of the most infamous bombs of all time.
I didn't understand what the movie was about when I first saw it. I was just like, oh, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I just seen Terminator. Let me give it a shot.
When did you first see it?
It was one of those cable movies.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh, awesome. The Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Did you come in the middle?
People.
I can't imagine like coming in the middle of this movie.
I think I did.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So it was a little hard to latch onto at the time. I was very impressed by the action. You know, I wouldn't have phrased it back then the same way. I would have been like, that was awesome! You know, but like, I don't fucking... I don't know what I'm looking at, really. You know? It's a satirical movie. It's an action comedy satire, a love letter, kind of a hate letter, a little bit to certain action stuff.
Yeah, it comes across like some of the people working on this maybe weren't happy with how the way Hollywood was working at the time.
Yeah. There's also, I mean, it stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, but it's also kind of a reflective movie for him too, like him specifically. Let's just talk about it. Let's just fucking go into it. Matt, what do you think about The Last Action Hero? Like in a nutshell.
How to get in that nutshell? Hey.
Boo.
Hey, I got jokes today, people.
Boo.
I got jokes. This is a deeply frustrating movie.
No.
I am not the biggest fan of Last Action Hero. It never quite gets there where it needs to, and it's entirely understandable why this movie bombed. And, yeah. Someone keeps changing what the fuck? I gave it 3 stars on Letterboxd the other day, and I go to check it again, and it's up at 3.5. I did not give it 3.5 stars.
There's one, editor who's the biggest Last Action Hero fan at Letterboxd, and they're like, I have
boosting
to.
the numbers.
They're fucking...
But, this movie is a goddamn mess, Diego. It cannot decide what the fuck it is. It ultimately tries to be 2 things, and it does not succeed well enough at either. and completely ignores the third thing, which it ultimately is. So, yeah, I've never been the biggest last action hero fan.
I have
people love
hang-ups.
this movie.
I definitely have hang-ups.
Yeah.
It sort of reminds me of Temple of Doom, where it's like this is just like male power fantasy shit, like especially with like the kid, right?
Yeah, but yeah.
This is kind of one of my favorite action movies.
That's a little sad, Diego.
Oh, no.
Frankly, it's a little sad.
I think this is a great movie.
Because this movie feels like it was made by people who hate the action genre almost. Which is insane because it is directed by John McTiernan.
I really have to disagree. I think it's made by people who have very mixed feelings about their success and also deeply admire and love the people who allowed them to have their success.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
Or appreciate. They don't fucking know me. Not love. That's too strong a word. But they're very appreciative of certain things. I think the initial version of this movie was absolutely made by cynical bastards, or the script, I should say. I think the script was made by cynical bastards who really just wanted to like shit on something. People who know the production of this film know that the original script was done by Zach Penn and Adam Leff.
And it was called something different initially. It was like called like, I think like Violent something, or it's like Senseless Violence or something, like a more cynical name.
Yeah.
But
and they meant to like just parody like stuff specifically done by Shane Black.
I've heard Zach Penn in interviews, because like he kind of broke down what he thinks went wrong with this movie, and he said like when we wrote it, we were parodying like more low budget action fare, like more in the line of like something like Canon Films would put out, right? And that Shane Black, he even brought like Shane Black does the good version of the movies we were trying to parody, and then they brought Shane Black in to rewrite it. So like it kind of lost what it was going for initially. And you can certainly feel that in the movie.
I guess you can. The one part that leaves the most like credence to the idea of like the canon film satire elements is like when you got Charles Dance walking like down Hollywood Boulevard or whatever, and there's all this like just mindless violence happening. That is cartoon violence, but it's in the real world by that point. So it's like
we'll
a very
get
mixed
to that,
thing.
but that is a problem of the movie, in my opinion.
I would agree with that. I don't think this is like a masterpiece, but I do think it's a great movie.
Yeah. It's a great idea for a movie that they never figured out while making it.
All right. Well, we'll get into it.
There is good stuff in it, but there's also an equal amount of just baffling decisions that just go, why is this even here?
Oh, are you talking about Danny DeVito's cameo?
Yes, I am, among other things. But that one is a big one where it's just like, there are so many fucking callbacks to this animated cat who shouldn't even be here.
Well, no, he's Whiskers.
Yeah, but like, what is the joke?
No, he's Whiskers.
What the fuck is the joke?
He's
How
just
does it
Whiskers.
work in the logic of the movie?
He's just Whiskers.
Yeah, it's... Why is the Jack Slater's police station also the hub for every other cop that's ever existed in Hollywood?
You know, I couldn't tell you.
And frankly, funnier than the fucking animated cat is the insane joke that the two buddy cops that are pinned together are a rabbi and an insanely German-looking person. Which is like a blink and you'll miss it joke.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of blink and miss it stuff in the movie. Like, not even just the gags, like the action, like setups and like the camera setups. Like, I think that's what I'm mostly drawn to in the movie. Although I do think it is very funny, frankly. I have the sense of humor of a 5-year-old.
You couldn't stop breathing during the whole Leo the Fart sequence, could you?
Oh no, that was my favorite.
Leo the Fart's gonna pass gas one last
Stupid. Not my favorite bit. But John
I actually like that one.
Oh no, now you convince yourself you love it?
That one's so dumb. Like, that whole sequence is like the one sequence that like really works for me. Look, an elephant.
Oh,
That's pretty fucking funny.
yeah, no, that's hilarious.
Oh my god, he's alive! Arnold having to pretend the dead body's alive.
Yeah.
Like, that's one sequence that's pretty funny.
John McTiernan is maybe the greatest like American action director for his short stint, right? Like for the years he was operating.
Yeah, he had this incredible run from Predator to, I mean, Predator, Die Hard, Hunt for Red October, right in a row is kind of incredible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like those are three, and they're like genre-defining movies. He does fucking Medicine Man, which no one remembers and was like destroyed critically in its era. I've never seen it.
I have also never seen it.
But it appears on Siskel and Ebert's Worst of the Year list.
Failed Blockbuster season 4?
I don't know. I don't know if it's that interesting, so we'll have to wait.
Yeah.
But this movie kind of is like, it's the beginning of the downswing for him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this. He does Die Hard with a Vengeance, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but
I
are.
know.
His remake of the Thomas Crown Affair, which is an alright movie.
You know, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a failed blockbuster. It was very successful. It's like a lark, but I mean, no one fucking shot a lark like him.
Yeah.
You know, he shoots the shit out of everything. That's why I can't really like.
It feels like a window into what he could have done had he like maybe done other genres. You know.
Mm-hmm.
But then like the last year are 13th Warrior, Rollerball, and Basic, all of which are like disastrous.
Yeah. Like I kind of like
Rollerball.
13th Warrior, but like it you know.
I know people defend 13th Warrior. I have never seen it.
Okay.
Just because it has such a bad reputation.
If you don't like Last Action Hero, I can't imagine you liking 13th Warrior.
But I like McTiernan's stuff up until basically Last Action Hero. Like, it's, and
So
I don't even like. I'm not even like coming here to be like this movie sucks. I just think it's like really uneven.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it feels weird though to make him the choice to do this. Honestly, Spielberg almost did it.
That's fucking wild.
Which is wild considering the fate this movie ultimately had.
Mm-hmm.
But can we just get right into the movie?
Yeah, let's just do it. The fate.
I'll talk about the
you're
behind-the-scenes stuff
though.
as we go.
Yeah,
But,
I guess that'll come up again. The box office battle or slaughter rather.
I think this movie fails right from the beginning.
Oh yeah.
The opening Jack Slater action sequence. I think the failure, the big miscalculation this movie makes is that Jack Slater, as he is in the Jack Slater universe, is a parody of action stars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the joke of that whole opening scene is like, fucking, the chief's yelling at him, the mayor's running for office, pissed off, the news, he has no time for him. And he goes up to the roof and like he throws like 100 guns out of his fucking jacket.
Yes.
Like, I don't think that was a smart choice.
No.
I think you needed to believe Jack Slater could stand toe to toe with Rambo or RoboCop or the Terminator. Like, you need to believe
it's leaning too much into the satirical, like right off the bat.
Way too hard, and it's too winky. Like, it's too like especially later when like we see the opening of Jack Slater 4 where the cops blow up, and the one's like just 2 days from retirement, and then he dies. Like, I'm not saying you can't do that joke. I just like he literally is looking at the camera, and then like a saxophone plays as he dies in order to underline the joke. Like, no kid would be going to that being like, hell yeah, Jack Slater. Like, even Black Dynamite, which is itself like a parody movie, like found a better way to ride that line of like, he's ridiculous but also badass, you know? And I think that failure to really to get us to believe in Jack Slater, it hovers over the whole movie and it makes everything else seem unbelievable.
I don't know. I'm actually okay with that. Like, I guess maybe because the way the movie plays out, when it does start becoming more about, like, Slater's, like, I guess, realization that, you know, he's not real. He's a work of fiction.
And that is the other mistake this movie makes.
Oh, God, okay.
It could not decide if it wanted to be about a kid who gets sucked into an action movie or about an action star who gets into the real world. So they tried to do both and failed to do either.
I don't know. I like that it's broken up, like, kind of between, like, the hours of the movie, you know?
Yeah, and this movie's too fucking long.
No, it's fine.
So long.
It's a little long, but not overly.
It is
so.
shockingly long.
It's 131 minutes. It's like 210.
And it's essentially two movies because of that, and it commits to neither totally. So you can't get invested in either half. I was more invested in the second half. I think they do that a little better, and we get to see Arnold kind of stretch a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But all the first hour of Jack Slater stuff, the joke is old before you even get into the movie.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just fucking crazy. I got a real kick out of all that stuff, and it never ends up betraying like the eventual like attempt at character like catharsis in a way for me. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those where like I'd rather them pick a movie and stick with it. Because it's already melding genres, but then it can't even decide what to do with its own premise.
Now, it's melding genres, and it's like, it's both a love and hate letter, like I was saying, right?
Yeah.
I think you kind of need both for this movie and, like, where they end up in the finale.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where it has to be, like the love of cinema is the thing that keeps it alive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you need both halves of this. You need the fictional representation, although yes, it's more satirical at first, and then it becomes very sincere. And you also need, the actual quality of the stuff. You need it's like a symbiosis.
I think the failure for the movie to get us to believe in Jack Slater kind of makes all that not land as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like in context, if you replace Jack Slater with any other Arnold character, right, and imagine them meeting each other,
Mm-hmm.
like what happens in the climax, and be like, okay, yeah, I believe the emotion of what's happening here. But in terms of what has been established with Jack Slater himself, I don't think they got it.
I don't know. I am much more positive on this.
I know everyone else seems to be. I've never gotten it.
No. There are plenty of people that don't like this movie. Plenty of them. None of them are on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
But...
Can I tell you that my annoyance with this movie comes down to like even the title?
Sure.
Because it's called Last Action Hero, but you want to say The Last Action Hero.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sure. I'll give you that annoyance because why the fuck is it not The Last Action?
That is definitely a studio note somewhere being like people don't like the word the.
Yeah.
Also, here's just the nitpick. What kind of kid is so fucking Shakespeare is so fucking boring, but also saw the movie Amadeus?
Yes, that's a little strange.
That's my I guess my other big hang up is I do not like the kid.
Oh, if you don't like the kid, this movie has no chance.
Yeah,
there's none.
I don't know if it's his fault, but I don't think they understand why a kid would even like a character like Jack Slater.
I will say, I think the kid is the weak point of the movie. I don't dislike him, but I think he needs a little work. You know what I mean? Like, that's the one part of the script that could use, some significant beefing
There's
up on.
There's a lot there that they clearly tried where, he's got an absent father, right? So, he clearly, he looks to these action heroes kind of in, a replacement. And he lives, a shit life. And he lives in a slum where, the horrors of the real world, so he goes to the theater for some escapism,
Mm-hmm.
All the pieces are there and they just never really brought it together. There's that scene, it's such a weird choice. There's a scene where Jack Slater's in the real world and is having breakfast with the kid's mom.
Mm-hmm.
And the joke is I never talked to a real woman before, because every woman in the Jack Slater universe is just a supermodel who just instantly falls in love with him.
Yeah.
But it's this interesting thing where like they start like being like, "Why didn't you tell me you stayed out late? Why don't you listen to your mother?" He's like immediately slotted into his like the surrogate father role, and the kid's only reaction is like, "Mom, you turned him into such a wimp." And I was like, "You could have done a lot more there," you know.
I think you could have. I really disagree that the movie's way too long. I think the pacing of it, like, you kind of can only hit certain beats. You can't spend too long with them. There's another bit later in the movie where Arnold runs into himself as Jack Slater meeting Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? And there's this, like, incredible moment where Arnold's trying to get him like a job, basically, like as like another version of himself, as a stuntman or whatever. And Slater just tells him like, "I really don't like you. You brought me nothing but pain." And it's like it's such a loaded moment of like,
but it doesn't feel earned.
I don't know. There's stuff there. There's enough there.
There's 100%. This movie is nothing but great ideas. This movie it's this weird thing where I wish they would, like how you talk about they should remake movies that didn't quite work the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Like 100% remake The Last Action Hero. There's a great version of this movie, but I think because it's such a notorious bomb, we'll never see a remake of it. It's just never gonna happen. But like you could totally do this with The Rock, right?
Oh my god, I think you could. No, I know the fucking action Twitter people that listen to this are gonna like lynch us for saying that. But I think you could do it. I don't know who you get to direct it. I think that's
that's
the
the
big
problem.
thing.
Is there's not really that many great action directors anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're out there. They're just not given the fucking chance to do it.
Yeah, I guess that's more what it is.
But I'll say, like, I kind of love Last Action Hero for its specificity of, like, this hodgepodge of ideas coming out of the 80s and into the 90s.
You can't say specificity and hodgepodge in the same sentence.
Okay, well, hodgepodge of stuff. There you go. Ignore specificity.
Yeah. Don't try to fucking pull a fast one on me, Diego.
I'll fucking pull a Jack Slater and blow up an ice cream truck.
Don't fucking pull some of your West Coast liberal elitism on me with your fancy words. I know what tricks you're trying to play.
Yeah, I step outside my house and it looks like the street where fucking Charles Dance is walking, and he's like, "Take his shoes."
Take his shoes.
Oh, is Charles Dance the greatest actor who's ever lived in this movie?
I'll say this. He should have gotten a fucking Academy Award.
Yeah, he's
the
good.
One guy who seems to be 100% on the correct wavelength of this movie. Like, every moment he gets it. I don't know what they told him or what he brought to the table, but he fucking nails it, man.
I think he's just one of the best actors who's ever lived. Like, I
really
do.
It's one of those things where he was just... It's such a shame he was kind of... It feels like he was wasted for such a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was kind of... Like, he would pop up in movies and you would like him, but he was never, like, the biggest thing on the planet.
Yeah, like, I'm looking at his fucking resume right now, and it's like... There's not a lot of gold here. He's gold always.
Exactly. Like, but also you got to think this is back-to-back Alien 3 Last Action Hero, which he gives 2 great performances and in 2 infamous movies. And he kind of, he just kind of like hangs around the industry popping up and shit. And then finally he gets Game of Thrones, which seems to be the thing that really makes him.
Yeah.
Which he is like, I know we've all kind of turned on Game of Thrones, but he is one of the, like, things that made that show a hit.
Yeah, no, he is incredible. He might give the best performance of those first 4 seasons.
Yeah.
He might give the best performance in the show.
Yeah, it's one of those things where when he's finally not on the show anymore, you can definitely... They clearly don't know what to do to fill his absence.
Yeah, and not to besmirch... Comrade George R. R. Martin right now. I'm willing to bet he's kind of had some trouble filling that void. You know?
He did a bit better job if you actually read the books.
No, he does a significantly better job. Significantly. I kind of don't want to give it
books,
away for people that haven't read it, but...
he was making a statement about Tywin's legacy, and, you can rule like a cool guy, but your legacy's gonna be shit. That's why he doesn't shit gold bricks when he dies, which is the actual line in the book.
Yeah.
Which leads some people to think he might have secretly been poisoned, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah. Which also never needs to be answered.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
Yeah.
That is going to be when those books finally finish. The amount of unanswered questions is going to piss people off. But
I know. And there's going to be all these theories like, did he do this because they did it differently in the show? Did he do that because they had to do it in the show? And it's like, I don't know. I don't envy George R. R. Martin right now.
No, I do not. But hey, maybe he's got some free time to write his book now.
Oh. He said he's writing every day.
Yeah, but what does that mean?
I don't know.
No offense to George. I once calculated, like, let's just say, for sake of argument, he was writing 1 page a day.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say the next Wins a Winner ends up being 1,500 pages long. How long would that take? And he should have finished, like, 2 years ago or something. So...
It would be incredibly funny. He's like, I finished. Everyone's like, yay. He's like, and now it's 9 books. Oh.
Yeah, that's what he keeps doing. It was supposed to be 4 books.
What, didn't it even start out as a trilogy?
I think it might have, but at some point early on, like I think as you're being published, he was like, it's gonna be 4. Like Dance Dragons is gonna be the last one. And then he's like, actually it's gonna be 5. And then he's like, nah, it's gonna be, I think he didn't even bother saying it was gonna be 6. He just jumped to 7. Like, so.
He's like, I'm covering my bases here. It's gonna be 7. It's gonna be 7.
But also, there's got to be the other second half of Fire and Blood, which is the history of the Targaryens, and then he's also got to finish the Dunk and Egg series, which allegedly there's like 12 more stories to that.
That's incredible.
Guy cannot stop announcing stories. But
you know what?
hey.
Respect. I kind of hope he never finishes the books now, just so he kind of just does his whatever else he wants.
I just need a couple more answers.
Yeah, no, I would love them to be finished.
I just need to know what the White Walkers' whole deal is.
Yeah, yes, because the show it looked like they were gonna get there, and then they're just like, no, it's really boring, generic, dark power stuff, and then they die.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, I guess.
You stab the leader, they all die.
Yeah.
Without their heads, they're powerless.
Like the fucking droids in Phantom Menace.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Which works because they're robots in that movie.
Yeah, I guess it works there, but what a weird thing that happened.
I know.
Man, those guys, they just burned their whole careers to the ground.
A little bit. Oh,
I
they have the 10 body problem coming out though.
3 body problem, you idiot.
Wow, 10 what the fuck? 3 body problem.
Yeah, the famous mathematical 10 body problem. Yeah, but who cares? Like, I think they dropped the trailer for it and no one gave a shit.
Did they really? That's not real.
I think so.
What the fuck?
But hey, also, like, it's gonna be one of those things where people are gonna be like, people are gonna get weirdly nationalistic about that thing. We're gonna support a story written by someone from China. That's 100% what's gonna happen.
I'm not looking forward to that.
Am I wrong?
No.
Am I wrong?
No.
Am I wrong?
I just said no. What the fuck?
Last Action Hero.
You know who else is really fun in this movie? The main antagonist of Jack Slater 3, Tom Noonan.
Tom Noonan is fun, but also, like, he's kind of underutilized.
Well, he's only in 2 scenes, really.
Yeah. But he looks fucking wild.
He looks like a fucking... he looks like he walked off the set of a Canon movie production. That's the Canon movie guy right there.
It is funny that Tom Noonan does appear as himself in the movie, too.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's only for half a second, because, like, no one knows who the fuck Tom Noonan is. No offense to Tom Noonan.
I know who Tom Noonan is.
We do, but the average person doesn't.
Thank you for one of the best performances in what might be my favorite movie. There's a lot of fucking great actors in this, too. Robert Prosky.
A lot of them are wasted.
Robert Prosky is great. Robert Prosky is not wasted in this.
He's not in it enough.
He warms my heart in this movie.
He's fine.
I had such an emotional reaction to seeing him realize that it's no longer his dreams that are as important. It's giving this kid the chance to believe in the picture show.
Sure, he gives him a ticket, doesn't know what the fuck it does.
No. In the back half, the first half, he doesn't know
I
what
know,
it does.
but
the fucking
the
catharsis.
The setup of the actual ticket, it's not really, you really don't need to, but it is a really sweaty setup.
It is very sweaty.
What did this ticket do before movies?
I don't think it existed before movies.
It had to have. He got it from Harry Houdini, who got it from like a bunch of other magicians.
That's right. I don't know. I guess it lets you hop into the world of paintings? Actually, that could be interesting.
Why would you need a ticket to see a painting?
I don't know these things. I didn't write this.
Like I'm saying, it doesn't really. That ultimately, that's really a nitpick on my part. But like, it is one of those where like I couldn't help but wonder.
I'm not Zach Penn. I'm not Adam Leff. I'm not Larry Ferguson. I'm not William Goldman, Carrie Fisher, Shane Black, any of the ghostwriters and script doctors on this movie.
You think they maybe had one too many cooks in the kitchen for this movie?
Maybe, but I will say again, William Goldman worked
Thankfully,
on this movie.
it doesn't feel like it was written by 12 different people who never spoke to each other. You don't get that feeling at all watching this movie.
I really don't think you do.
It doesn't feel like each individual scene might as well take place in its own separate universe.
No, I don't. I definitely don't feel that.
Yeah.
It could be more cohesive. I agree there.
It could definitely be more cohesive.
It is crazy that Carrie Fisher and William Goldman both worked on this, though. Like,
Yeah.
Shane Black makes sense. Carrie Fisher, one of the legendary script doctors of Hollywood after the Star Wars trilogy.
Goldman got like $1 million for a 4 weeks worth of writing on the movie.
Oh my, what a fucking legend. One of my favorite grumpy old men of Hollywood.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Look, if you write Marathon Man, like, do whatever you want. It's fine.
No, Goldman was a great writer, but it's also like all these people don't feel like they should be writing the same script. You know what I'm saying?
I would actually agree with that. The movie still works for me, not even in spite of that. Like it feels like it's such a specific flavor of Hollywood bloat that's kind of like reined together by John McTiernan's like fucking wild direction.
Sure.
Like I think there's
Here's
nothing else like
my
it right
other complaint is all the action in this movie looks really expensive. You can also feel like it's been toned down a little, which is, I think, the studio's fault because they really wanted a PG-13 rating for this thing.
I will say in the first scene, when I was rewatching it for this, I was like, is this going to not work for me this time? I didn't really feel it the rest of the movie, but that first scene, you definitely feel it. Like, when they throw the body off the roof, right? And you don't even see the impact. I was like, wait, what?
Every scene in this fucking movie looks so expensive. Like, it's distracting almost, especially when you know how much it bombed.
I kind of love the expense. I'm like, give me that fucking opulence.
Yeah,
if
but
I'm going to a movie that's this crazy.
But action movies aren't meant to be opulent.
No, but if you're going to blow a bunch of shit up, I want it to look good and have it look cool when it's blowing up.
I feel like I'm on, like, the studio backlot tour a lot of the time watching this movie.
Maybe that's an aesthetic choice made by...
I think it's a choice,
John
and I think it was
McTiernan.
the wrong choice.
Okay.
But,
See,
like,
this is funny, because I think we agree with the pros and the cons of this movie. It's just that some of them work for you and some of them work for me, Or don't, in your case.
I have no idea what the fuck you just said, Diego.
I think we're in complete agreement.
Are you okay? Are you having a mental breakdown?
I am, actually.
Are you having a heart attack?
Maybe a stroke of some kind. It's very hot in this room.
A stroke of genius! No.
I think we agree with everything about the movie, like the good and the bad of it, right?
Yeah.
I just don't care about the hang-ups, I guess.
I think what you're trying to say is you're weak and I'm a genius.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
You know what's another sign of problems early on in this movie? So we get like the whole scene where Robert Prosky living in the projection booth. He's living the dream. We see like the real world. We go to his boring school. And the teacher's like, today we're going to learn about Hamlet. Technically, he's one of the first action stars.
If you're going to besmirch this great scene of cinema right now...
No, here's something. That scene when he imagines the fake Hamlet trailer, maybe the best part of the movie.
Okay.
That scene is hysterical.
Yeah.
Also, the teacher, that was I can't remember her name, but it's Laurence Olivier's wife. So she's literally introducing a movie that her husband's in.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting pull.
It is.
But the Hamlet trailer is really good. It makes perfect sense that this would be what a kid imagines as the action movie version of Hamlet, right?
Yeah, there's something happening in the state of Denmark.
There's something rotten in the state of Denmark. Like, yeah, it's really funny. But it's also the exact same tone and vibe of allegedly the real Jack Slater, which I think is a problem.
Wait, why is that a problem?
Because Jack Slater should feel like a Lethal Weapon movie. Young kids are attracted to action movies because they feel a little dangerous when you watch them. Because they're violent and like it kind of freaks you out, but it's also exciting. That's why kids like action movies. There's something kind of dangerous about them. There's no danger to a Jack Slater movie.
You think
Even though it goes up
it's
against a guy called the
too
Ripper
silly.
who holds like a giant axe, like it all feels like the edges are sanded off the real Jack Slater.
Is your main criticism that it's too silly, basically?
That's definitely a part of it, but again,
Like, I don't want to dismiss your legitimate qualms with the movie.
to go beyond it being silly, because sometimes the jokes work, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm fine with silly ultimately. It's more that it feels like I'm watching like a fun house. I don't know what the word is, but like he looks like a McDonald's commercial. Like it doesn't look like, you know, when you watch something like Predator, like you can see like the tactility to him, like it feels gritty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like now, obviously, it's not. It's very stylized ultimately, but like when he gets hurt, you can feel the pain when you watch it. When you watch Lethal Weapon, people get fucked up in that movie. Die Hard, his feet get all destroyed. Like there's an intensity to it that Jack Slater never has. And like that's part of the joke where like if he gets shot with a bullet wound that would kill you in real life, he can just walk away in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Which is true for all the movies I just described. But those movies still tried to make you feel the pain, you know? Whereas Jack Slater feels too soft around the edges, you know?
I guess the qualm you have is like not to diminish your other claims and stuff like that, but if Jack Slater, the character, the in-universe franchise character, had a little more grit to him, and he wasn't inherently satirical, right? Like if someone turned on this movie for the first time, didn't know what they were watching, you kind of don't want them to know they're watching a comedy. You want them to see a real action movie for the first 2 minutes, right? Before you pull back and reveal the kid in the theater.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you can still have these satirical elements, but they're so like, in this it's such a like, see what we're doing here, wink wink. Whereas like, I feel like there's a better way to do those jokes while making it subtle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when he went in the opening of Jack Slater Forward, he's like, my favorite second cousin lives here. Like the joke being like, so many of his family gets murdered in each film. And like, because of course, like, I mean, that's straight out of the Death Wish movies, right? That every movie suddenly has a new friend who gets murdered in the opening.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's too on the nose, I guess. Like there should be I don't know. It should be somewhat more believable than what it is. Like I should believe these characters are somewhat real in the way that you believe any of the action characters I've already mentioned are real. Now they're obviously not, but you believe in enough of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
To go along with the ride. Like, but people like Merton Riggs obviously don't exist.
Yeah.
But you watch those movies and you believe in them enough that they can carry that film. And here, you just don't see it. And I think part of it is the aim for the PG-13 rating, which then leads to the only fallback they really have for the action is explosions. and you get a little tired of looking at explosions after a while.
You might. I don't.
I absolutely do, because they all look the same in this fucking movie. But,
I just don't see it this way, I guess.
yeah.
I love that it's so unreserved, you know? Like, it has no interest in being subtle. Now, if you want that, like Matt Gringo does, you're not going to like this movie that much.
Yeah. I don't even know if it has to be subtle. I'm just saying that the way they weren't subtle here is what made it not work. I think part of it is because here's my big thing. You read a lot, and a lot of what like the people will say in retrospect with this movie is that it wasn't enough of a comedy to satisfy comedy fans, and it wasn't enough of an action movie to satisfy action fans. So it ended up pleasing no one, right? That seems to be the general takeaway from executives. Mm-hmm. And my thing is they miss what the movie really is, which is that it's a fantasy adventure film. Mm-hmm. It's not an action comedy film. And they don't do enough to... There's barely anything to make it work as a fantasy adventure film, which is what it ultimately is. Now, you could retool it to make it not a fantasy adventure film, but they don't seem to realize that that's what they've accidentally settled on as a genre. And that's where I think it kind of fails. So
I never thought of it that way. The fantasy adventure part, I mean, but
yeah,
I guess that could be.
It's more. Hang-up. It's all like I'm not just saying this to like dunk on the movie. It's a lot closer to something like Goonies than it is to Die Hard. You know.
Yes, I would completely agree with that.
And that's a problem if you think you're making Die Hard. Even if you think you're making a parody of Die Hard, if you don't acknowledge that your movie is mostly a Goonies type film, you're going to make a bad movie. It's amazing it works as well as it does, considering that. But it again, I don't think they ever cracked it.
Okay, here's the take then. You got Goonies for the adventure kids, right? The Indiana Jones Amblin kids. You got Monster Squad for the horror kids.
Yeah.
Is Last Action Hero that for the action kids?
It could have been, but I don't think they wanted it to be. I think they kind of, because those are both movies that maybe they thought they either didn't even acknowledge or maybe wanted to distance themselves from, but it should have maybe been Goonies for action kids, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like, no offense to the people working on it, but it feels like their finger is just slightly off the pulse as to what kids in 1993 were interested in, you know?
I don't take any negativity away from that statement. I would agree with that. I could not tell you how well this stacks up for like what kids were interested in those days.
Yeah.
You know,
it feels like it's like 2 years too late. You know, like they just missed the window where this really would have worked. Because I think like that early Nintendo era too was like a lot of that was like running and gunning type video games. So kids were like into that type of shit. You know. But I think by like the 90s, those kids are grown up, and then what's gonna be the Blockbuster movie, which is the movie that was released 1 week before Last Action Hero, which was Jurassic Park, and that ends up defining the Blockbuster season more than something like the Last Action Hero. And that ultimately wasn't something to really parody, because like the wake of Blockbusters that came after Jurassic Park were all kind of like CGI heavy movies because they didn't really learn the right lessons from Jurassic Park. But this kind of action movie is like over by 1993, so that didn't help it, you know.
Yeah.
And I think maybe if they had leaned into like kids that were specifically they love going to Blockbuster every week, maybe it was a group of kids that love going to Blockbuster every week, or maybe they go to this one theater all the time to watch action movies, and they've watched like they're the type of kids who argue like who would win in a fight, Stallone, Schwarzenegger, which is surprisingly something that's never discussed in this film. Maybe something like that would play a little better with this setup. But yeah. There isn't enough here for that fantasy adventure angle that you could even advertise it that way, you know? Even though the poster is the most action fantasy adventure thing ever.
Oh yeah, Arnold hanging from the helicopter, carrying the kid with the explosion of the movie screen behind them.
Yeah, which I guess Arnold was the one who said he wanted the poster to look like this.
You know what? I would say good for him. It's a good poster.
But in retrospect, everyone agreed it was a mistake.
Aww.
Because they said it made it look too much like a kid's film.
Poor guy.
Yeah. Is that a Drew Struzan? Did he do that? It looks like a Drew
did.
Struzan.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a bad poster.
Yeah, maybe just wrong for the movie.
Yeah.
Could have been the Blu-ray cover or something.
But again, I think the other challenge is like the movie never totally figures out what it is. I think that's the ultimate thing this movie struggles with.
I don't know. I think it works significantly better than you're giving it credit for.
But do you think it works as a whole? Like I understand if you want to go take the scenes and you say like the majority of scenes ultimately work even if they don't come together. Like I could see someone saying that. What I just don't agree with at all is that I don't think this movie ever comes together as a solid movie.
You know what? Hot darn it, I do. At least
really
by
do.
the end. At least by the end. It feels like the end is a genuine culmination of all these disparate, messy pieces of parody and satire and genuine sincerity, and it somehow makes it all work. And I find it very, very sweet.
I guess, but I gotta be honest, I did not feel that at all. But also by that point in the movie, I was kind of so bored, like I was barely paying attention.
Boo.
There's a lot of stretches of this movie that are just like, let's wrap this up. Like, let's get this over with. The big one being the extended scenes of the kid trying to prove that it's a movie, which is like there's no tension or wit to any of that. It's just like a long scene of him like being like, "Oh, let's go to the Blockbuster," and just like, "Hey, I know this because of the movie." And it's like there's nothing engaging about that at all. The only funny part in that is I can't remember exactly what he does, but he reveals something that only the captain and Jack Slater would know. Mm-hmm. And the captain's like, "You told me that in confidence." Like, that's like the one that like really made me laugh. But other than that, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, stop. Let's get. I want to. It's like It's kind of like, when do we get to the fireworks factory type thing? It's like, okay, we're in Jack Slater. Let's do some fucking Jack Slater shit. Let's do some action. And like instead the kid's like, "Hey, I'll prove to you that this is a movie." And the kid also, I can't tell if the kid is frightened to be stuck in a movie or if he's excited to be in the movie.
Again, I think I agree mostly with the kid stuff. Yeah.
Like, which I think doesn't help either. Mm-hmm. What was a movie like this where like the person gets their way? You know what this movie is? It's kind of like fucking Pleasantville. Do you remember the movie Pleasantville?
Yep, we talked about it.
Yeah, where they get sucked into the TV and like Don Knotts is like a magical TV repairman who does it, and he does it because he thinks that they're big fans of the show, and then they're like, no, he just learned all this trivia because he wanted to win some sort of contest, and Don Knotts is so offended he's like, well, I'm leaving you then. Like, and so like they don't really want to be there is part of it, and that's at least a choice. They never really make a choice with the kid here, which doesn't help.
Yeah, I think we're just gonna have to accept that it's a good movie, and you can go in the corner and be a sourpuss about it.
You're such a coward, Diego. You know what's the really good moment early on in when he gets sucked into the movie? Because I don't totally like.
Truck?
No, I don't like the ice cream truck gag. But they never settle on it, which is what's annoying. But there is an attempt from the directing standpoint to try and be like, this is what it would feel like if you were suddenly in a car in an action scene, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we're so used to seeing these action scenes from afar, but now imagine you were actually in it. So, like, when the camera's in the car with Jack Slater and the kid, it's really engaging. And when they do that jump over the Coca-Cola truck, that's really cool. That's a really cool one. And then when you see the other truck just flip over in the background,
yeah,
that's a really good moment. I really like that. The other stuff in that scene, I'm not totally a fan of.
Boo.
But why is Professor Tora Tanaka in this essentially as his character from Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
I have no idea. Well, you know who else is in this? Quick cameos. They're at the police station we talked about earlier. There's Robert Patrick.
Yeah.
And the great Sharon Stone, but as her character from Basic Instinct?
I was reading about the behind the scenes of this movie, and famously they showed a very incomplete cut of the movie to test audiences who basically revolted, and then Columbia TriStar tried to destroy all the notes they got, all the audience notes, but in doing so, that just raised further questions, and people thought it actually got received a lot worse than it did.
Oh.
So they kind of shot themselves in the foot. But there was a thing about a lot of the jokes weren't landing. There was a lot of confusion, and I was thinking about what do you cut from this movie to try and make it a little easier for audiences to understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would be cut all these cameos. That is the big thing is those cameos don't make any sense. The buddy cop thing doesn't make any sense. I'd be cut that. But for some insane reason, they make the fucking animated cat integral to the plot of the movie. So you can't just cut him. And if you can't just cut him, you can't cut the setup. And if you can't cut the setup, you can't cut all the confusing cameos.
Yeah, I don't really understand the thought process behind the cameos and the shared
It feels like
universe
something
police station.
left over from an earlier draft, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it made sense at one point and now it just doesn't.
Yeah. Because I mean, if it's like Roger Rabbit for action movies, right? Let's say that's the there's more structural changes you have to achieve to make that happen.
Yeah.
But let's say that's the thing of this movie, right? Makes more sense.
And it's clearly calling out the Looney Tunes thing because they do specifically reference Looney Tunes cartoons in it. The fucking villains in the opening are throwing bombs from Acme.
Yeah.
That's and if it had picked that lane and stuck in it, maybe I would have bought it a little more. But it's so all over the place. Because this is also Jack Slater dealing with the death of his child, who also doesn't technically exist. So, it's such a strange collection of things. But the cartoon stuff, had they been more just that lane, it maybe would have worked. But it just feels like a classic thing of a studio looked at this and went this movie will appeal to everybody, and it just ended up appealing to nobody.
And 30 years on, it appeals to me and me only.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a cult following.
Yeah.
Gotta give a shout out to Bridget Wilson making her second appearance on this podcast.
Woo!
Haven't seen her since Billy Madison.
Yeah, go Bridget.
Go Bridget.
Sorry about your role in both films.
No, she's very fun. She gets it. She totally gets what she's there to do.
No, she is not the problem. Again, I was mentioning my hang up with the kid stuff. Not really about the character of the kid. It's just what they kind of... The male fantasy elements of it are very obvious, and it's Jesus.
And it just feels weird in a story that is kind of a kid's film, you know?
Yeah.
Like I said, this movie's a fucking mess.
I think I mean, you mentioned it before too, how they were trying to keep that PG-13 rating. If it was just like a really bloody R, and they kept insane amounts of violence in it, and just had this narrative going through it still, the same narrative is just way more violent. There's so much more blood, right? I think that makes it kind of inherently funnier. But you got to make the kid more scared there.
Yeah, I think it would be funny.
I think it's funny now.
It's funnier to play it straight. There is no straight man in this movie, though.
At least not for the long term. I think you need that for the majority of the premise, but
I'm telling you, the tone of this movie should have been Black Dynamite.
Maybe.
I threw that shit before I walked in the room.
But Black Dynamite is a masterpiece, so it's a high
But I'm
bar.
telling you, that's what... If Jack Slater had been that, I would have bought it. If he'd been so badass, it's ridiculous. He's literally ready for any contingency.
I mean, that's kind of what they go for with the first half.
They try, but he's still a little too goofy. They don't find it. They don't find the right amount. I don't want to downplay. I think it's a lot harder to find than I'm maybe giving credit. But I don't think they succeeded. So. Hey, this movie has the same plot as the Star Trek: The Next Generation episode Elementary, my dear Data.
Oh, how about that?
Did you ever think about that?
No, but here, we can go even further and start naming other films that are about protagonists jumping into fictional worlds. Well, here, let me ask you this really quick. Do you like that, I guess, trope or that story idea?
I don't know. Can you really be angry at, like, a trope?
No. But, like you can, like, dislike something, you know?
In the right hands, I'm sure it can be done fine. Although, off the top of my head, I can't think of one.
Well, this is not a good example of it. This is a very bad example of it. But there was The Dark Tower that just came out a couple years back.
Oh, yeah, but that's that's, like, more like in the John Carter getting sucked to another world type zone.
I guess, yeah.
You know what? I guess I do like this story because I have been writing. I totally forgot. I wrote a script that is basically that.
There you go. Look at that. It's an idea I find very fascinating too. I would love to come up with something that kind of fit the mold of this. I am not against your idea to remake this movie with like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson after he gets some cred back, because I am a Dwayne Johnson fan, like as an actor. You know, I do want him to...
he honestly, I think he would be good. He just picks bad projects.
Yeah.
Like, Arnold had as big an ego as The Rock does now. It's just Arnold had a better run, you know?
Yeah. And now Arnold struggles to find movies worthy of his talent, quite frankly.
Although, coincidentally, I watched the Arnold documentary. It's on Netflix right now, the 3-part documentary. And it's a very strange documentary.
Oh, okay.
Just because it's basically him being like, yes, I achieved everything. And like he talks about his career and he's like, nothing stopped me. I made it to the top of the mountain. And he's like, but he like is like alone in his giant house.
Oh.
Like he's fucking Charles Foster Kane, but totally doesn't seem to be aware of it.
Rosebud.
Like, yeah. He owns up to like it was maybe a mistake to cheat on his wife.
Yeah, maybe. Who could say? Who could say? Who among us?
Whom among us? But it's a very strange documentary to watch a guy be like, yes, I accomplished things and I never complained and I worked hard, and like it looks like he's not happy.
It's like the end of The Irishman when the documentary crew leaves. He's like, could you leave the door a bit open?
A little bit, yeah.
Aww.
A little bit. But also there's a big part in it where he admits that the failure of this movie like almost broke him.
Oh, that's a bummer.
That like he really believed in this movie, and I have a book that I read years ago called Hit and Run, which is about John Peters and Peter Goober. John Peters making his second appearance on this retrospective, I believe, when they took over Columbia TriStar and basically ran it into the ground over the course of like 2 years.
Jesus.
And this is one of the examples of some of the mistakes that were made. Part of getting Arnold on board was basically giving him a lot of creative control, particularly with how the movie was marketed. And it was Arnold's choice to kind of pull back on the violence, which he later admitted he thought was a mistake. And he was the one who's like, I want Jack Slater to be more emotional when he's in the real world. And that's when I think they brought William Goldman in to like fluff up that stuff. But it was literally like they were kind of just building it as they were making it, you know?
Yeah.
And it was a lot of Arnold being like, I want the movie to be more like this. And he really believed in it and thought it got to show a different side of himself, and then it bombed, and he was like really broken up about it. And thankfully James Cameron came in and gave him True Lies, which kind of like he bounces back almost immediately.
I'll say this. I think True Lies is better written. It is also a movie that is deeply unpleasant to watch a lot of the times.
Yeah, but I would watch True Lies over this any day of the week.
Yeah? I don't think I would.
True Lies is like fucking wild.
Yeah, it's fucking psychotic. It's definitely a pre 9/11 America movie.
But it's committed to its bit.
Oh boy, is it.
It's committed to the bit.
Yeah, it is absolutely written and directed by a man who was divorced fucking like 5 times or whatever.
Yeah. who thinks has finally figured out why his wives are leaving him, and his conclusion is insane.
If I just
I should have gaslit them.
Yeah, I should have gaslit my wives more. I can't wait for Avatar 3 to 5. I'm not even joking.
Yeah. James Cameron is an insane person.
He is.
But I'd rather see someone's just insane fever dream of an idea than like this, which it feels like the only person who was really that invested in it was Arnold.
Maybe that's why I like it too, because like I am an Arnold fan. I'm a big Arnold fan. Like as much as you can be of a human being you never met.
Yeah. No, I am too. I love Arnold, and I keep trying to get him back on this show.
And there you go. Look, I bring you this great gift, and you besmirch the man.
I think Arnold deserves better, is what I'm saying. Because I agree with you. The emotional stuff, when he kind of gets to be like, when he's like, my whole world's a fucking joke, he actually sells that really well. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I wish the movie was more of that, but it's so many other things, it doesn't allow that to really take root. I know you're like, I'm fine with it, because you're fucking fine with everything. But like,
there's something we're gonna talk about that I'm not fine with. But what
is that? Let's get that out of the way.
I'm not gonna get that. It's not this movie.
Oh, well then I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, man.
I don't know. I think it is even better than its cult reputation precedes it. It is. I think
I maybe would have enjoyed it had I seen it when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
But now in a post-Deadpool type world, I just hate this type of humor.
This fucking wipes the floor with that, though.
Yeah, but that's an incredibly low bar.
Well, yeah, but like,
yeah.
I mean, fucking John McTiernan still directs the fucking shit out of this. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know. McTiernan feels a little bored at times.
I definitely do not feel that, but I've also not ever heard him talk about the movie.
A lot of what I've heard him say is not positive.
That sounds about right.
And he said he thinks he was kind of sleepwalking through it.
Him fucking sleepwalking still like wipes the floor with so many other people though, which is like
according to you,
crazy.
according to me, it still looks a little boring.
I don't know, man.
There's moments. There's definitely great moments. I think the whole, honestly, like as dumb as the setup is, I do like the Leo the fart sequence. Like, it is, like, kind of, like, it finds this really good balance of being funny, but also engaging as, like, an action scene, in a way that a lot of the other scenes just don't. But, he's not, like, not there. And he does do some interesting visuals. I really like the real world, the chicken scene, when the two cars just drive straight into each other. Which is both also, like, funny, but also, like, kind of tense. Like,
it is, yeah.
That scene really works.
Also, the crash is, like, really brutal.
It is, but it's, like, brutal and, like, oh, shit, he might have just died, but it's also funny. Like,
yeah.
that scene really works. But there's just other stuff in it that doesn't. And I do think he wasn't strong enough at defining the real world versus the movie world. They tried their best, though. Like, everyone's trying really hard. Which is also what Arnold apparently said to the crew when production was, like, when it was very clear the movie had bombed. He had, like, met with the crew and he was like, you guys all did great work. You have nothing to be ashamed of. Like, he, like, apparently tried to make everyone feel better.
No.
So.
That was my governor. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, he did such a great job.
I wouldn't say that. I'm just saying.
No mistakes or complaints for him as governor.
I'm just saying, it's very strange that...
Wouldn't it be weird if he basically became your governor because of Enron? Wouldn't that be a weird thing to find out?
That would be unfortunate.
Wouldn't it be a weird thing to find out that the CEOs of Enron met with Arnold before he had even announced he was running for governor?
Wonder what that's about.
Wouldn't it be weird if, like, they were deliberately crashing the California grid to boost up the price of energy to prop up the fact that there were millions upon billions of lies and profit at the Enron Corporation?
Wouldn't that be something?
Wouldn't it be crazy if they basically orchestrated that whole recall election?
Wouldn't that be something?
Gray Davis has terminated opportunities, and now it is time we terminate Gray Davis. That's one of the speeches he actually gave.
Maybe we've always lived in a world run by crazy people.
Yeah. No, that was the moment. When Arnold became governor of California, that was the moment we all should have been like, things are fucked up. I think that's Patton Oswalt's joke, where he was like, he's like, I read comic books, and for a while I was getting real scared that we lived in like the dark, evil parallel universe to the good, happy universe. And then he was like, but then I realized we actually live in the wacky parallel universe. Where he's like, on our planet, torture is legal and Arnold Schwarzenegger is governor.
Yeah, that's, you nailed it. I think we're winding down here. I just got a couple, like, mini little notes.
You think The Rock's going to pivot to politics?
I think he wants to, but I think he needs to build up support again. Not that I want him to. I want to make that clear.
Shouldn't. Now, when does Chris Pratt announce he's running for office?
After the Marvel stuff dies down.
Mm-hmm. He's 100% running, and he's going to win.
You think so?
Just warning everyone. That's 100% coming.
You don't want that.
We don't, but it's going to happen.
Some positives to take away from the movie.
I think if you want to be a politician, it means you're fucked up. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, sure, maybe if you want to be, like, a local alderman and, like, just, like, want to help your community or something, but, like...
That's different. It's different.
If you want to be a governor of a state, you're fucked up. Like, that's just how it is.
Oh, yeah, what's that great fucking line in this? When he's like, oh, you know, you're from the fake world or whatever, like, real world, we got all these problems, like, you know, like politicians, disease,
forest fires, which is a weird one to throw out. But...
Politicians. You said politicians twice. I know they're twice as bad.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
John McTiernan's got some moves.
Wow, he doesn't like politicians. That's such a rare opinion to have.
I don't know. Just saying.
That's some, no offense, that's some milquetoast, like throwing some shade at the government. Like,
maybe it's just because I've heard his rant.
I keep getting this ad that is like, I think it's from some conservative organization, and it's like, what should the government do to stop inflation? And some guy is supposed to be like the dumb Democrat, is like, more reckless spending. And I'm just like, how does anyone fall for this? Like, does someone really think someone's like that the other side is like, you know what's a great idea? Reckless spending.
Yeah.
Like, we all disagree with that.
Yeah.
Like, how does anyone think that's a political position to be against reckless spending? We're all against reckless spending. It's what we spend it on that we disagree on.
Yeah.
But
last things I want to shout out. Dean Semler, director of photography on this. He worked with George Miller on Beyond Thunderdome, Mad Max 2. A really talented guy. He also shot Young Guns and Young Guns 2. I don't know if you're a Young Guns fan.
You know what? I've never seen the Young Guns movies.
Fuck, you know what? I think Young Guns 2 is a failed blockbuster.
Are they worth watching?
I don't know. I want you to watch them and get back to me. I don't... Some people really like them, is what I'll say. Some people really like them.
I think those like 80s Westerns kind of never really appealed to me, you know?
We might be on the same wavelength with them.
Like, that's because they're so, like, Reagan era, you know?
Yeah.
Like, Westerns get really interesting in the 60s and 70s, and then they just kind of go like, can't we just go back to good old-fashioned gunslinging?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, we can't. But they tried.
They did.
They sure did.
I guess just last shout out. I have more stuff, but I guess don't need to talk about it. The music is by Michael Kamen, who he's the composer for every classic 80s action movie that you love, basically. He was like the best. Oh, he also scored Life Force in Brazil.
Oh boy.
In the same year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know what's kind of fascinating about this movie? As it is part of it is one of the most notorious failed blockbusters of all time, right?
Yeah.
Like, it opening a week after Jurassic Park, like, goes down in history as one of the biggest mistakes of all time, right?
Yeah.
Like, people are like, what idiot made that decision? And according to what I was reading, it wasn't even the biggest flop for Columbia that year.
Really?
Yeah. Two other movies, Geronimo, the American Legend, which I don't think anyone remembers. It's the Wes Studi, I think, played Geronimo.
Yeah, I remember that movie.
And the failed music. It was a movie. The movie shot as a musical and then reshot to take out all the musical elements out. Another also satire of Hollywood.
Oh no.
A movie called I'll Do Anything. James L. Brooks, I believe, his follow-up to Broadcast News. Both flopped harder than Last Action Hero. But everyone remembers Last Action Hero as the flop because of how notorious it was.
Well, did those other movies destroy test cards?
No. See?
That's probably what it did.
There was such a... The executives got so bullish on Last Action Hero because they thought it was such a guaranteed hit that when it started going away, they couldn't hide from the fact that they had backed it so hard, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I believe I'll Do Anything was one of those that, like, it quietly got released, like, in January or something, right? Like, they just kind of went like, eh. But, like, this also came after, like, a year of bad press with Columbia TriStar and how bad things were going over there. And this was 1993 was a particularly terrible year for them. And Last Action Hero just happens to be the poster child of what they considered everything wrong. And it looks like, yeah, it's like the only one that was basically all Columbia. Like, there was very few other entities involved in the movie. So.
Well, now I have to ask you this. So we're talking about, like, notorious bombs that, like, change the face of an entire studio, basically. And they leave a mark of shame, essentially. You had mentioned that 2023 might have some worthy contenders for the failed blockbusters next season.
Oh, yeah.
Is The Flash this for Warner Brothers, you think, now?
It could be. I mean, the Flash, they were so bullish on it, and then it just died immediately. I will say, I read an interview with an executive that one of the executives... It's just one of those classic things where these guys just don't understand movies. Mm-hmm. Allegedly, one of the producers of this movie, he also produced an adaptation of Hamlet and asked for a plot synopsis to be sent to him. He needed a plot synopsis for Hamlet, but also walked out of notoriously bad movies that they had produced. I think Bonfire of the Vanities they had produced with Warner Brothers. Mm. And he walked out of it and said, "That's the greatest movie I've ever seen." Which feels a little similar to Zaslav saying The Flash is the greatest superhero movie he's ever seen. Mm-hmm. So, there's some parallels.
Yeah. Now, you and I have not seen The Flash. We did half an episode just shit-talking it because it's such a gross movie that has to exist, right? I feel comfortable never watching that. So I'm going to say right now, we will not be covering that movie on Failed Blockbusters. I'm willing to put down like $1,000 that The Last Action Hero is 1,000,000 times the movie The Flash is. Even in the state that some people don't like it in.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. That was a slam dunk. I'm going for the easy win today since I didn't really win you over.
You literally had to bring up one of the worst movies of the past decade in order to get one over on me, but hey.
Okay, how about let me see. What else did I see this year? I don't even fucking know.
There has to be something that bombed.
Something that bombed. Dungeons and Dragons. I think this is of the same caliber of movie as
Dungeons and Dragons was better.
No, I
although
like
a little more
movie
flatly, a little more flatly directed.
Yeah, that one might just be like a where'd the budget go thing, not on the directors per se, because those guys are talented. Those guys are good. Yeah. Or time.
I did not feel that at all with Dungeons and Dragons, but I really liked that movie.
I do too. I like Last Action Hero a lot more.
Yeah, no, I can't follow you there.
All right.
And I stand by that comment.
Okay. Last Action Hero.
Last time I'll ever watch it.
Oh, boo. Okay, last two things, I swear to God. Joan Plowright is the English teacher.
That's what I said.
Yeah, I've forgotten about it. You named her? I thought you forgot her name.
I don't remember if I said her name, but I did bring it up.
Yeah,
so.
no, you brought it up, but I think you forgot to mention her name. I remembered her name. So
Okay.
And then shout out to Sir Ian McKellen.
Oh yeah, we didn't even bring up the fact that fucking Death from literally the Seventh Seal shows up in this movie.
Yeah, which is also like, kind of like it's evidence to your claim that like that shared universe police station might have had a bigger role to play in earlier drafts of the movie.
Yeah.
I'm
that
sure
is a
there are
wild
like
choice.
other drafts available out there on the internet somewhere. I have not read through all of them.
Yeah.
I like the movie enough as it is, so I don't need to worry about it. Sorry,
I wish it had gotten crazier like that. Like, I'm not saying like you got caught up on me being like, I wish it was grittier. I don't need it to be specifically grittier. I just wanted it to pick a fucking lane, Mm-hmm. Like either go gritty or go like insane with it, and they didn't do either. So, yeah.
All right, I can live with that. I can live with your bad take.
I'm glad you can live with my take.
Yes, thank you.
You fucking piece of shit.
Hey, Matt, you know what I forgot to do?
What?
I forgot to set up the other movies for the roulette because we also may be covering 2 additional movies.
Well, yeah, but we'll save those for the end.
Okay.
That'll be contingent on... So we don't have to worry about having a strong finale. We can just do whatever.
Okay.
All right, how many movies we got left to do? 7?
We got 7.
All right.
We got Mimic, Final Fantasy, Heaven's Gate, Hugo, Chronicles of Riddick, Alita Battle Angel, and Fantastic Mr. Fox.
All right, pick a number between 1 and 7.
6.
6. All right, what's our second to last one on that list you just gave me?
Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within.
The list I gave is also it's written down. It's not in the order of the ones I said. So.
All right.
Yeah, it's the poll ranking I'm going off of.
Yes.
So, Final Fantasy, Spirits Within.
Yes, that'll be the next episode. Glad that worked out.
It did. I think this is going great.
Wow, can't wait to talk about those Spirits Within.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
I've seen that movie 3 times. I could not tell you a fucking thing that happens in it.
That's awesome. This is going to be good. This is going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
It's going to be great. It's going to be
great.
Should I tell them the plan about the other 2 movies? Or?
No, that'll be a secret.
Okay.
Because also it might not happen. So
okay, no,
don't get their
it will
fucking
happen.
Hopes up.
It will happen because I think there are too many good movies that won. I do firmly believe that now. Anyways, Matt, thanks for joining me. Thanks for doing this. This is a lot of fun. I can't wait to see what the season holds.
Hopefully I'll have more positive things to say going forward.
No, I mean this was good though, because like we have agreed a lot lately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we can get angrier.
Yeah.
There's stuff to be angry about.
I specifically look for movies that I think will be a little divisive. So.
Well.
Just saying.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I am a little bummed that Rocky and Bullwinkle lost. That's on me.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah.
But what are you gonna do? Who has time to watch Rocky and Bullwinkle?
I don't know. How often do you watch that movie?
At least once a year.
Okay, we're gonna have to unpack that at a later date. Matt, do you want to give your socials?
My social security number. What?
Yeah.
Guess what? I'm on Blue Sky, everybody.
Yay! Do we follow each other on Blue Sky yet?
What?
Do we follow each other on Blue Sky yet? I
followed you.
Okay.
I followed you, and that was the first time I found out you actually had a Blue Sky account. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Shout out to my good friend Angie Han. Oh, I just logged in. I have like 20 plus notifications. Let me. Oh, nope, it's more. Okay. So a lot of people found me and followed me. Thank you. I'm on Blue Sky. I do not post. I will start posting because Twitter, its days are more numbered than ever. Thank you to my good friend Angie Han who gave me the code for Blue Sky. Great writer, critic. So go follow her if you can as well.
I'm glad your friend could help you out.
I don't know how to use to give codes. How do I give codes?
You're supposed to get a code at some point. I haven't got one yet though.
Oh, see, it's not just me, motherfucker.
Yeah, but you could have given me a heads up.
Oh, sorry. I tweeted, or I blue skied. What do you call them? What do you call?
They're called tweets.
Yeah, you just
Who gives a shit? And fucking Twitters are X's now. Who fucking knows?
Yeah. So I tweeted over on Blue Sky just once. To make sure everyone knew it was for sure me.
I blued it all over that sky.
If you're bluing, go see the doctor. You can find
Failure
me.
to achieve complete bluing.
No.
You might need to talk to your doctor.
Isn't that what Jake Sully did in Avatar?
Oh.
Whoa!
Oh, wait.
We're on fire today.
The guy who got them jokes.
We got them jokes. Yeah, Blue Sky. I'm gonna put that link in the stuff now from now on.
Jake Sully. What you... Oh.
Blue Sky. I'm gonna use the Discord more. Because I just use Twitter for shit posting now. I don't really.
I
talk
keep
to people
asking
on there
Diego
anymore.
to give me a page
They're
on
also
the Discord. He
DM
says,
limits?
that sounds like a great idea, and then I never hear anything.
It does sound like a great idea. Here, I'm fucking opening up the
Really part of the
Discord app right
podcast.
now. This is great. Okay, whatever. I'll just I'll make it and I'll just close out the episode. Yeah, links to everything down below. Like and subscribe. If you didn't like this, like and subscribe anyways because you might find something you do like. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for watching. We have been professionally unprofessional.
Hey.